Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev, and in this video we are going to create the player and its movement. So there is not going to be much, so let's start creating. So for now we have a main menu scene opened up, so let's go inside our gameplay scene. And the first thing we are going to do is go into the project settings, and we are going to set our physics 2D gravity to 0 because we are going to use our own gravity settings. And afterwards, let's add our where is our resources, the bird, and the size is going to be 512. And we'll add our bird to the scene, and if we position it at 2.56, yeah, you can see it's around here, and we'll call it player. And let's add a circle collider 2D component, and its size is going to be 0.15. And let's position it around negative 0.05. And it will also need a rigid body 2D component which has a gravity scale, doesn't matter, mass of 0.1. And now we are going to create a script for it. So let's go inside our scripts folder and let's create our player movement script. And when the game starts, the player is going to start moving. So the player is going to be somewhat like as you can see right now. And now when the game starts, the player is going to move. So let's code it up. So let's go inside Visual Studio and let's start editing our player. So constants, game manager, main menu manager, we'll use everything later. Why everything else is opened up. So let's go inside our player movement script and need to resize it a little bit. And inside our player movement script, let's first create a serialize field, and the first one is the transform, rotation, and center. And we'll have one more serialized field, private tmpro or tmp text. And this one's for our score text. And afterwards, let's create a serialized field, private audio clip. And we are going to have two audio clips. First one's the coin, and the next we are going to have when the player dies, so which is the explosion clip. Now we'll also need a rigid body reference RB, and the private boolean can move, private boolean can jump, and private integer score. And after doing that, let's create a serialized field, and this one's going to be for the gravity force, and next one's for the move force, and the last one's for the jump force. And inside our awake, what we are going to do is can jump is set to false, can move is set to false, and let's set RB is equals to get component, and we are going to get the rigid body 2D component, and the score is going to be 0. And we'll set the score text, or text is going to be score.toString. So that's it for our awake. And after our awake, Let's create the private void game start. So when the game starts, it's going to be an event, so it needs the respective parameters, which takes a dictionary of string and object. We'll just call it message. So when the game starts, what we are going to do is we'll just set can move to true, and I let's copy, and when the game ends, the can move is going to be set to false and the velocity is going to set to 0. So the player stops itself and will subscribe to this event. So on enable event manager dot start listening, and we are going to start listening to the constants dot event names dot game start. The game start is going to listen to it. Let's copy it once more. Game over and game over. Now let's copy both of them and let's go inside decibel, and inside our decibel, instead of start listening, we are going to stop listening. Now let's go inside our update. So update, we are just going to use if we cannot move, then we return to get the input. So if input dot get mouse button of 0, then can jump is set to true, else can jump is set to false. So that's for our update. Now after having our update, we are going to have fixed update, and inside our fixed update we are first going to check if we can move, then we'll return. If we cannot move, then we'll return. Else let's set the rb dot velocity multiplied by 0.99f or maybe 0.9f, so it smooths out a little bit. And we are just going to get the gravity direction, and it's going to be head minus tail, which is the rotation center dot position minus transform dot position, and we are going to add force, and the force is going to be the gravity direction multiplied by gravity force, and the gravity direction needs to be normalized, and force mode 2D dot force, so it's going to be a constant force. And after adding the force, let's have the forward direction, which is going to be v3 dot cross, and we are going to cross dot normalize. What should we cross? v3 dot forward and our gravity direction. So it's going to set the forward direction, and similarly we'll add force inside our forward direction, and it's already normalized so it doesn't matter much, but if it is not, let's just normalize it, and we'll multiply by move force, and I don't think we won't need to, and we are going to set the transform dot rotation to be quaternion dot look rotation, and we are going to pass the v3 dot forward and negative gravity direction dot normalized. So it's going to go, and if we can jump, not cannot, if we can jump, we'll do rb dot add force, and now we are going to go into negative gravity direction dot normalized multiplied by jump force multiplied by time dot delta time, and the force mode is going to be impulse. So that should be it. And now let's go inside Unity and let's see if our player is working, and it needs to have our player movement script attached to it. And let's add our rotation center as the background, the score text which is inside our circle, the two audio clips which are inside our resources. The first one is the explosion audio clip, and the next one is the coin audio clip. And for the gravity force and the parameters, it's going to be 4, 5, and 8. And now let's hit play. So there should not be any problems, and as you can see, we are able to move our player, and the player movement is already looking good enough. Now when our player collides with an enemy, which is the obstacle, it should end the game, and it collides with a goal, it should just. So let's first create tag, which is the goal. Next tag we are going to have is obstacle, and whenever both of them fulfills, we are going to update the score, and when the game ends, we also need to update the score. So let's create that. So the first one is going to be on collision enter 2D, if collision dot game object dot compare tag, and we are going to compare the tag to constants dot tags dot obstacle. Then we'll trigger the constants dot event names dot game over, and we won't pass any parameters. And after that, similarly, we are going to trigger event constants dot event names dot update score, and for the parameter it's going to be new dictionary. And inside our parameters we are going to set the variable name to constants dot event params dot score, and the value we are going to pass is this score. And similarly on trigger exit 2D, if collision dot compare tag, and we are going to compare the tag to our goal, then we'll just increase the score. So let's do score plus plus, and afterwards we'll set the score text. Score dot toString, and then we are going to trigger the spawn spoke event with the parameter of null. So it should be finished, and we should have our player moving. So let's hit play, and that should be it for this video. So let's hit play, and as long as there's not any parameter problems, we are able to play the game. And the gravity is working fine. Our player is already moving good enough, and that should be it. So if you watched till now, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to complete the whole game, see you guys in the next video. And do watch the whole game.